amiable. When you woke up this morning, did you purposely say, I'm going to confine myself to a box? Or do you just avoid putting any conscious thought into today? When you're busy going at it, literally or figuratively, do you ever find yourself pausing for a moment to realize what's going on? Or are you just reacting? When you hear the saying, may I have your attention please, do you continue as you were, or do you consider the information you're about to receive might actually be valuable? When I was growing up, my mother used to ask me to do things, and sometimes her reasoning was, because I said so. Looking back, I wish perhaps I took the time to pause, think, and consider the ramifications of my choices. Good Thursday to you. Today is Thursday, September 15, 2016. This is episode number 4 of Pause, Think, Consider, and I am your host, Jesse Liebman. Thank you all for tuning in today to listen. I want to thank everybody for sharing on Facebook and liking our page. For those of you that are potentially struggling to figure out the best way to subscribe or listen, please go to the website pausethinkconsider.com, and on the right-hand side you will see all the various methods and ways to subscribe, whether it's iTunes or Google Play, Stitcher, or you could even just play it on the website or through YouTube as well. So again, visit pausethinkconsider.com, subscribe, and you will be notified when each and every new episode comes. Today, topic is being lazy, or the concept of lazy. For information on this, you can visit pausethinkconsider.com/lazy for all the information that we talk about today. In regards to being lazy, we're not born with a work ethic. This is something I personally believe. When you're having the debate of nature versus nurture, I don't believe that having a work ethic, not being lazy, is something that you're born with. I believe it's a product of your environment. And I was doing some research this morning in regards to the topic today and read quite a few different interesting articles. Some that really hit home for me that I'll share on the website that you can check out. There's How Lazy Bosses Avoid Doing Their Jobs by Jeff Hayden. I know on a personal level, this has been a little bit of a thorn in the side, which I'll get into here in a minute. There's also 5 Ways to Deal with Lazy Coworkers, kind of on the same subject, by Laura. We'll just say her last name is C, so I don't butcher it, but that's been an interesting thing for me as well. And then finally, Expose Lazy Employees Are Good for You by Colin Shaw. Another interesting perspective, the first 2 being very much about how it's a pain point, which I know for me personally it is, but then actually trying to showcase and play a devil's advocate role that lazy employees are actually good for you. So a short story in terms of why being lazy has always been a thorn in my personal side. In elementary school, and it took me years and years before I figured this out. And this is before the No Child Left Behind Act. I think I was in middle school when that finally came out. But that doesn't mean that from a teacher standpoint that teachers weren't trying to up their grade averages and make sure that no student failed. And for me personally, I don't know that I want to go so far as to say that it was a gift, but schooling for me was something that almost came naturally. It was something that I was really good at. And when I applied myself, as with anything that I've ever done, when I apply myself, that is when I am at my best. And that is when I can literally accomplish anything. Yes, I had the goal when I was in high school that I wanted to run a 4-minute mile. And unfortunately, genetics, I guess, simply won't allow that to ever be. Although I did get down, I think, to around a 4:20, which is minutes faster than my father ever ran, who was the runner in the family. But in terms of my elementary school days, I was very much, I loved the attention, if you will, of being the smart kid in class, of being the guy that in kindergarten was doing second grade math, of having that attention. I was one of 2 boys in a class of like 20 girls. And so attention from my female counterparts was not something that was hard to come by, but I wanted it all. I didn't want any focus on the other guy. I didn't want to share. And even though I've developed the trait of being a good sharer, in my early days, I was not a great sharer. Even with having 2 sisters in that capacity, I wasn't a great sharer. And where this started to come in, it started in elementary, really reared its head in middle school, and which is when I really started to become frustrated, and then also in high school as well, is because I had this gift, if you will, of I was never the smartest, certainly never the tallest, never the one that worked the hardest. There was always, I was at the upper echelon, if you will, but never the top of the top. I wanted to be the top, and I had the work ethic to be at the top because I wanted that attention. I wanted those accolades. I wanted to impress upon my parents that I was a good student, and through being a good student, I was rewarded, seeking that positive affirmation and all those goals and rewards that came with it. But what my teachers started to catch on to, and which is why group work has always been a little bit of a thorn in my side, is because my teachers started to figure out that I wanted so badly to be successful that if I was in a group and somebody wasn't pulling their own weight, I just said, screw it, I'm going to do it myself. Screw it, I'm going to do it myself. And I'm going to take this entire project on my back. I will not let anybody fail. And we're going to get an A. Damn it, if it's the last thing that I do. I don't care who's on my group. We are going to be successful. And my teachers very smartly picked up on this. And I started to notice and really struggle in group work because there was always at least one, sometimes an entire group. If there was 4 of us, there was 3 of failing to below average students. And as you know, with group work, it's a group grade. Yes, there were some situations where you could rate or grade and give points to your teammates, and that went into some crazy formula that spit out the average grade for that person. So maybe it would be a little bit lower and I would still have a higher grade than them. But the goal of my teachers was it brought the average grade up of that individual. If you're a failing student and you've got a group grade that's 50%, whatever the percentage is of the grade for the term, and you add in an A, even though you haven't done jack the whole rest of the term, that's going to bring it up. Yes, the 0 is going to bring it down, but now you've gone from being an F to you're a C student. And as a teacher, it's the law of averages. So now intrinsically, you're a better teacher because your students are performing better. And it took me years to figure it out. And I think I had a feeling, and I knew that something was going on which is why I had such an apprehension. I loathed group work because I knew I was going to get stuck with somebody. And it was always, I had just a poor reaction to it. And so group work has always been tough for me. I've always been somebody that, I had an issue with this at my last place of employment, that if I do a presentation, if you're asking me to do the work, I want to own it through and through. This whole concept of, well, you're going to be the one that's going to create it because you're the one who ultimately is going to be owning it, but I'm going to present it because, this is just how we do things. Bullshit. If you don't like the way that I present, if you have a fear in terms of, am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to piss off the client? Am I going to scare away the business? Don't freaking hire me. Don't hire me. Because I'm going to put in the work to be successful at it. When I was growing up, I always thought we were poor. My parents had framed a manner in which I had this perception that we were poor. And I remember physically asking my mom at one point, I think it was in middle school or it might have even been elementary. I said, Mom, because I had just learned about social classes. And I saw and I could identify with the people that were at the 1%, the high end in my school. They were the kids that mom and dad had a Mercedes. The kid had the nicest clothes. They had Nikes. They were wearing Ralph Lauren and Polo and all sorts of things that I don't even think I walked into that section of the store. And I said to my mom, I said, Mom, are we poor? Like, are we below average? Are we doing food stamps? Are we in the poverty line? And my mother chuckled and said, No, we're above average. We're above average? How on earth could we be above average? And she explained to me, and this is a topic we'll get into for another time, but she told me that, well, we choose to live in a certain manner. We choose to put different priorities on things. Well, why would you do that? She said, well, it wouldn't be worth it if we just gave you everything. If we just gave you anything, you wouldn't learn anything. You wouldn't develop any skills. You would get this big head or you would come to expect certain things. Certain things are special. They're built for Hanukkah, for your birthday. They're a one-time thing because then you really appreciate and you really enjoy it. And through that, it was no thanks to my parents and what they really did for our family. And my father, who he knows down to the hour. He works for the U.S. Postal Service, and he knows down to the hour when he is retiring. He's coming up, I'm going to butcher this, but it's something like 38 years that he has been in the post office. Had a little bit of a break in there for being fired or what have you, but recovered, got back on his feet, and did it. And what I love about my father, among other things, is his discipline. The man goes into work at 7:30 in the morning every day. He has his routine. He is the one who has taught me about the power of a routine. It's very much why I am a routine-focused person. But he wakes up, and it's gotten earlier and earlier the closer he's gotten to retirement. He used to wake up at, I think, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would run on the treadmill, and sometimes it would wake me up. God, Dad. Just, he's slamming the back of the wall, doing 5 miles or whatever on the treadmill at 4 o'clock in the morning. Because my mother was working nights at the time. But my father, at this point, he wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning every day. And you could say, and I still ask this question, why in the hell are you up 5.5 hours before you have to go to work? Like, you would think that he was developing some prototype for a new market product that had never been designed before. But no, he loves listening to Howard Stern, and checking his email and doing research on his fantasy baseball and fantasy football. And he's just always reading and learning about different things. He's not a big book reader, hardly ever reads books, but the internet has changed things for him. I remember when we had dial-up, and it was the same thing. He was always on there researching. I think that's where I've gotten a lot of my desire for always learning and researchability. But my father, I believe he went to college. His brother actually signed him up for his classes, Greek mythology, and I think he went for a week. So dropped out, worked for a printing press, worked for a beer and soda distributor, eventually landed in the post office, and he goes in every single day and he hates his job. I don't think that's necessarily a secret. I don't think he's got too much seniority that if somebody from the post office listened to this, they would probably know. Hopefully it wouldn't make his last 9 months of life at work miserable, but he hates it. But he does it, and he knows that it is the end goal is being able to get to where he is, have enough financial means in order to live the rest of his life the way he wants to live it. And he knows, as a father, as a husband, he provided for his family in a manner that we were able to be successful. We weren't a below average poverty line family. We had many things and were very fortunate in a manner that not many people would have. And so that has carried on to me because it's a product of my environment. And I believe that when we are born, we're not born as either being lazy or with a work ethic. We're not born being lazy or with a work ethic. We're all products of our environment. And for me personally, I'm a product of my environment, being a blue-collar family. My mother, couple credits short of getting her associate degree in college. So for me, graduating and getting my college degree was sort of a ho-hum moment, unfortunately. For the family, it was a big deal. But for me personally, it was a ho-hum moment because I just expected to do it. It was something that wasn't necessarily hard or challenging. In fact, I found myself, to my mother's chagrin and my classmates' chagrin, oftentimes sleeping in class because it was boring and I wasn't getting anything out of it. And if I had the foresight that I have now, maybe I would have done something different that would have been challenging, that would have been interesting, that I would have gotten more out of. But going through and physically getting my college degree and instilling that work ethic was as a result of my parents, a result of the environment that I grew up in. It was not a question that I was going to go to college. It was more of a question of what am I going to get a degree in, and then how am I going to leverage it? I'm going to be successful because my parents have put me in that position to be successful. And it's not just me. That's my personal story. There's several different examples out there that I like to examine. There's what I call the culturally disciplined. And I referred to him in the first episode, Gary Vaynerchuk. He talks about this quite a bit, and I will post one of his keynote speeches in which he talks about his story. But essentially, he was an immigrant, born in the Soviet Union. Father came over, and very much a disciplined family, a disciplined work ethic. You just worked. It was in the blood. And I hear this all the time. Gary V's just an example, but you hear it all the time. People that, whether it's changing your religion or it's being an immigrant and gaining your green card, those are the people that have built this country and have made it what it is. And they are some of the most successful people in their own right. They might have different goals than you or I have, but they are highly successful because of their work ethic. They will not let their family fail. If it means working 4 jobs and that is the skill set that they have, then they will work 4 jobs. Failure is not an option. And people like that are incredibly inspiring to me. Some other examples would be construction workers, gardeners, farmers. I've been around and been fortunate enough there's a local co-op here, Our Table, in Sherwood, Oregon, and getting to be around an 80-acre all-organic farm and see the practices that take. And the owner talks about it's not necessarily hard in terms of farming, but it takes a lot of manpower. A lot of manpower, especially the pesticides and all the things that we use in our food. It makes it easy on the farmer. And it makes it almost like it's fail-proof versus you're leaving a lot of things up to potentially chance and the farmer's almanac and weather. And farming is challenging. It's something at some point in my life, that's probably why I have a backyard garden, why I have my little DIY vegetable garden, is it gives me a little bit of a taste of what it's like to be a farmer. And if I'm being fully transparent, I suck at it. I am not very good. I am not disciplined enough to day in, day out, water, trim the plants, pick all the fruit, grab the kale, and inevitably things just die because I'm not good at it. I'm not disciplined enough. Other areas which are very personal to me of people that are disciplined is the military. And I look at my girlfriend, Jean, she talks about all the time. This is somebody that got her bachelor's degree in physics. So a highly intelligent individual. She might try and downplay it, but highly intelligent. And you get done with your bachelor's degree in physics. I don't know very many people that got done getting a degree in physics and go into the military. But that's what Jeannie wanted to do. And she has her own reasons for doing it, but I believe that in going into the military, it has really helped discipline her. And not that she wasn't disciplined before. You have to have a certain level of discipline to be a valedictorian, which she was in high school. But it's brought on a different level. And also product of her family and seeing how her family is. And really almost this us against the world sort of mentality of I do not want to be X. I want to be Y. And taking that on, I really believe that's a product, and I look at a lot of people that have military backgrounds. They're very prevalent in postal worker, in the post office field. They love people from the military, and there's a movement, if you will, of trying to bring military-based individuals into the workforce, and a lot of them are great for businesses. They might socially have to adjust to the way things are done in the world, but you're not going to question their discipline or their work ethic because that has been beaten into them since boot camp. They've been broken down to the point that they will be successful just like the farmer or the construction worker or the immigrant. Very much the same. On the flip side of things, there's the privileged or the 1%. And there's been a lot of talk in the news, probably simply because it's a election year, and it's a very polarizing election year. This isn't to get into politics, but there's a lot of information out there about Donald Trump and being a 1% and being somebody that's never had to work in his life. That's the perception, is that he didn't have to work for anything. He inherited his father's job, and the same could be said for Gary Vee. Here's somebody who inherited his father's liquor business. The difference is that Gary Vee worked his ass off. And he went from being a $3 million to a $50 million in a matter of months. Donald Trump inherited. And I think where a lot of animosity comes from is seeing an individual of his status and really flaunt that status. And I know for me personally, that's something that aggravates me. I don't care if you make more than me. I don't care that you have a BMW, you have the nicest clothes, that you have more hair than me, and so you can get a better haircut or what have you. I don't care. What pisses me off is when you want to flaunt it and show how much better you are than me. I will freely admit, you know what? You've got a better job. You make more money. You might even have a better life than me. You might be more happier than me. Just don't rub it in my face. Don't rub it in face. Go live your life and enjoy the fruits of your labor and the lifestyle that you've built and created for yourself and for your family, and enjoy it. Don't put it against me. I think that's where a lot of people have problems, among other things, about Donald Trump. The other side of things, and this was very, very interesting to me, was when Mallie Obama made her decision to go to Harvard. And I'll link to it, pausethinkconsider.com/lazy. There was a lot of coverage about how Barack didn't want Mallie to go to Harvard because he had gone to Harvard and he wanted her to go somewhere else, that perhaps she'd be able to make her own path, so on and so forth. And really, in her decision, I think it very much has less to do with the fact that Barack went there and graduated from there, and more to do with that's where she wants to go. And you look at a lot of people that are children of famous individuals, and you hear the talk all the time about living in the shadow of their parents, and some people, they want to. They won't even go into that industry. They go into something completely different because they either don't want to deal with the pressure, they don't want to deal with the scrutiny, or they want to make a name for themselves doing what they do for themselves. And inevitably, people always come back, well, why didn't you just do with your... Well, I wanted to make a name for myself. I wanted to do my own thing. I am not who my parents are. And that's really inspiring. And I believe, I don't know in the full decision, I can't get inside her head in terms of why she chose Harvard, but I believe she is going there to make her own story and paint her own path, pave her own path, if you will, having nothing to do with her father. Yes, her father went there, but I don't think that was relevant in terms of her decision for why to go to Harvard. There's a great book that was given to me by a friend of mine called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And The Slight Edge, to give a Reader's Digest version of it, is essentially talking about the hard things, how things that are easy are most challenging, and the things that are most challenging are easy. Sort of a play on words, a little flip there, but physically going out and doing something on a daily basis. We talked about this yesterday in terms of the art of listening. Listening, if you were to use this theory, listening is not hard. Not listening is hard. And it's an interesting concept. I highly recommend reading it. It's all about creating that discipline and ultimately not being lazy and showcasing when you are lazy, how the fruits of your being lazy labor are inevitably what you get. And so, looking at all the different sides of how it's our environment that intrinsically can make us lazy or give us a work ethic. So we're not born this way. Culturally, we have examples all over the place, from immigrants, construction workers, farmers, people in the military, the privileged, the unprivileged, and trying to get to where it is that we want. We all have a different path. We all have different goals. But how is it, if you've identified, you've done a little bit of self-awareness, and you realize that you are lazy, you are intrinsically lazy. You are the sack of potatoes that is on the couch. You're overweight, or you're unemployed, or you're just not where you want to be in life. What can you do to get out of this rut? It's really a psychological game you have to play with yourself. I believe it comes down to 3 important things. Make priorities, set an accountability channel, and stay the course. So make priorities. You need to make priorities and stick to them. The first facet of this is you have to simply accept you can't do everything. And this is something I really struggled with early on, especially in high school. I did everything. I was on the track team. I was the manager of the basketball team, president of the Japanese National Honor Society, was doing advanced classes, played in band. I was in the jazz band, the pep band, any sort of music. I loved computers. I had friends. I went to the football games. I went to any possible thing I could go to, as long as it cost me as little money as possible. I remember when we had Club Rush. Club Rush is essentially all of the school clubs that you can join. And I think they gave us an hour, something like that, an hour in which we could go, and they were in different classrooms all over the building, and I strategically mapped out, and in that hour, I went to 12 different clubs, and my name was on all 12 clubs lists. Now that dwindled when about 8 of them required some sort of fee, if you will, and it was nominal. $10, $20. I said, nope, not getting involved. I am trying to involve myself in things that are cheap and easy and spread myself as thin as humanly possible because I want to be well-versed. I was told that in order to get accepted into college and to get scholarships, you need to be well-versed. I need to be good at everything. Well, maybe you're like that too. Or maybe you have a focus. Maybe you're like some of the people that on the basketball team that I helped out with that played classic or competitive basketball in the 4th grade while I was playing rec. And that is what you did. You played basketball. You were on the traveling teams. You look at an individual local here, Kevin Love. Kevin Love focused on, granted, his father played in the NBA, but he focused on basketball at a very, very young age, and that is what he did. That was his purpose in life, was to play basketball. Now, obviously, he has an NBA ring, successful, so you can say everything worked out. But just like Kevin Love, you have to make priorities. And Gary Vee talks about this, that there's just a lot of things that he doesn't care about. A lot of things that he doesn't make a priority. And the things that he does make a priority, he micromanages the shit out of it. Because it's really important to him. And I know this annoys the crap out of my parents. And it did growing up, and it probably still. They don't have to deal with it on a daily basis anymore because I have my own house. But I have inherently not been the most organized or clean person in the world. My room, still this day, has always been an absolute disaster, like a bomb blew up. And my parents would tell me all the time, Jesse, it just takes you 2 flipping seconds to pick up the dirty underwear, the t-shirt, the pair of pants that you just wore, that you dropped in the middle of your room, and put it in the hamper. And then all you have to do is walk that hamper downstairs, pick it up out, put it in the washer machine, and hit play. And for me, it was the biggest struggle in the entire world. They thought I was rebelling. They thought I wasn't a good listener. The reality is, I just didn't care. I just didn't care. It wasn't a priority for me. And they tried everything from, I remember my father used to say, I had another issue where I would sleep, my sheet would come off the bed. Because I was such a tosser and turner, probably because the mattress I slept on was from age 3 to 28 when I finally left the house. So 25 years on the same mattress, that'll do your back good. No wonder I have scoliosis and I'm 5'8". But I was an incredible tosser, very active. I was probably burning about 500 calories in my sleep every single night, and inevitably the sheet would come off. And my father tried to instill in my mind, he said, well, you know, if you sleep on a bed without a sheet, you'll get cancer. And that's been a running joke with my father and I ever since then, that I'll get cancer. And, you know, I listened to my father. I tried. It simply came to, I tried doing it because I'm like, gosh, I don't want cancer. Just, that seems stupid. Like, to get cancer from not having a sheet on my bed? Like, of all the reasons to get cancer, that's a pretty dumb one. All right, I can put my, but I just didn't care. So it didn't matter what they said. It wasn't a priority for me. I was more interested in playing 6 straight hours of NBA Live 2004 in 2012 and being LeBron when he was a rookie and Carmelo and so forth, and using my imagination, my play-by-play and so on and so forth. That was a priority for me. Cleaning my room, not a priority. Playing my drum set, priority. Putting my drum stuff away when I was done with it, not so much a priority. So you got to make a priority and you got to stick to it. And ultimately, accept the fact that you simply can't do everything. The next thing is you got to set up an accountability channel. And I went through this. I had an issue. I went to the dentist and was told I had a mild case of gingivitis. I don't know how you have a mild case, like, and then you have a severe case, and then you have a not. Apparently, there's a range, but I had a mild case of gingivitis, and it simply came down to I wasn't brushing my teeth every day like I should have. Growing up, I was a 2-time-a-day brusher, flossing the whole shebang, no cavities, great. Get later in life, bigger priorities, not brushing my teeth. Well, I don't want gingivitis. That's expensive. Now I'm looking at cost of health dollars. And now I'm going to have fillings and I'm going to have cavities and I'm going to go through all this pain and misery, and I don't want that. So I told my girlfriend, Jean, we set up an accountability system. I said, again, long distance relationship, so really only one time a day that I get to talk to her. I said, Jeannie, I want you to ask the question, text me before you call me. And if I have not brushed my teeth, I do not want you to talk to me. He goes, well, what happens if you haven't brushed your teeth and like I have 5 minutes to talk and that's the only time we talk? I go, well, then I'm going to figure it out. And I'm probably going to owe you a dinner and a big kiss on the cheek and an apology. But I need to break this habit. I need to break it. I'm lazy. I don't want to be where I am, and I need you to hold me accountable. So he's actually trying to set up an accountability system to work out right now, because I've been in this funk, if you will, for the past month of not working out like I should. Not saying that I don't exercise on a daily basis, but not in the manner that I should. So I've set up the accountability channel once again. So you need to have people hold you accountable. It's why personal trainers are always going to be an industry that are popular. It's why the life coach exists. I mean, I don't know how long the life coach has been around, but it is amazing to think that there is an individual that literally sets up goals for you and sets up a strategy and technique in which you live your life. And you pay this person money. They make a living off of telling you how to live your life and how to do it the right way. It's the same thing as a personal trainer. It's why, personally, I don't go to a gym. Jean is a gym membership person. She needs it. I know there's a lot of people out there. It works for them. I refuse to go to a gym. I refuse. I refuse to pay to have to drive or walk or ride my bike to some place that I could do the same goddamn thing right in my house with a couple dumbbells and my body. I refuse. But for other people, they need that accountability. They need that sense of knowing that every single paycheck, $20, $100 a month is coming out for them to go do this. That they're going to be letting them, not only themselves down, but they're going to be letting their trainer down if they're not making the progress. And I certainly felt this when I played trumpet and when I played the drums and having those private lessons, and you come back from the week when you're supposed to practice something and you didn't, and the raw talent that you have, which I did not possess, did not carry you to be successful in going over what you're supposed to work on. I felt like I was genuinely wasting my teacher's time and wasting my parents' money. So you have to set up an accountability channel. And finally, you got to stay the course. You have to stay the course. It takes an acceptance of being uncomfortable. Nobody likes being uncomfortable. You don't wake up in the morning and say, you know what? I'm going to be uncomfortable today. I am going to walk on hot coals 24/7. And I am going to be uncomfortable and I'm going to love it. Nobody does that. But you've got to relish the journey and learn to be comfortable while being uncomfortable. I'm not a TV guy. I don't watch TV. I cut the cord, if you will, about a year into when I bought my house. So going on 3 years now that I cut the cord. And it's a personal belief that I don't like watching other people live their lives. I got so many other things that I could be doing and enjoy doing, that to sit on the couch and watch TV, it's just, I got too many things going on. But instead, I'll watch a YouTube video. It could be the same as a documentary, but I can do that for free. And you could call it being frugal, being thrifty. Yes, I'm Jewish, so there's a lot of racial connotations that come with being cheap. But I just leverage other methods. So the one thing that I do on a daily basis is the skim. If I have to, I'm not affiliated. I'm not going to get any money from them. Pause, Think, Consider is not to the level that it is. Maybe at some point they will be an advertiser and we will actually be financed from the skim because they enjoy so much and we have such a following of this show that they want to be a part of it. But I highly endorse the skim. I'll link to it. pausethinkconsider.com/lazy. It definitely makes me not lazy with regard to understanding and knowing what's going on in the world. But without being a TV watcher, I'm still familiar and know about the show Biggest Loser. And I use this as my example for staying the course, accepting that's uncomfortable, and relishing the journey. Because I have watched an episode or two back in the TV day, saw an episode or two, and I think for me, reality TV is garbage, but that has a tangible success proponent to it that I can get behind. And if you're not familiar with the show, maybe you're a cut the cord guy or gal like me, and you're not familiar with it. It's essentially these people that are 500, 400, 300 pound, whatever, and completely overweight, poor lifestyle, maybe their health's deteriorating. I don't know all the stories and backgrounds of it. And the show is 8 weeks long, 12 weeks long. I don't know how many weeks it is. They probably condensed it into however long a TV quarter is, and show these individuals that basically go through the struggles of trying to lose weight. And the person who wins is the person who loses the most weight in the quickest amount of time, or something to that degree. But those are individuals, and it was interesting to watch the people that were successful and the people that weren't successful. And the disappointment on people that weren't successful, and the pure joy of the people that were. And really, that is the antithesis of being disciplined and staying the course, knowing it's going to be a lot of hard work, but enjoying each step. And there's a lot of things that we could go into as far as goal setting goes. This is kind of in that goal setting range or realm, if you will. But staying the course, knowing it's going to be uncomfortable, and relishing the journey, it's going to make it less painful. It's going to, because if you're inherently lazy, and your default is to opt out or to go away, and I know for my mother, this was one of her fears for me, because there was a lot of things that I opted out at a very young life I just didn't want to do. And that was often perceived as being lazy. I heard, "You're lazy. You're being lazy," for much of my youth. I don't necessarily believe that I'm a lazy individual. I just think I have different priorities. Maybe I don't have the self-awareness. Maybe I am a lazy person, but I just believe that I have different priorities. So, in a recap, we are not born with a work ethic. We're not born with a work ethic. We're not inherently lazy, and we don't have a work ethic. We are products of our environment. And there are all different environments that people are part of, their upbringing, that cause them to either have a work ethic or to be inherently lazy. And there's 3 things that we can ultimately do in order to course correct and make us not be lazy. First is we need to make priorities and stick to them. We need to set up an accountability channel and then stay the course, accept it's going to be uncomfortable, and relish the journey. I want to thank you all for listening today. Please check out the website at pausethinkconsider.com/lazy. And don't forget, while you're on the website, please subscribe. It doesn't matter if it's Google, Android, iTunes, Stitcher. Maybe you just want to listen to on the website, but please, so that you're able to get each and every episode that we get out. Every weekday we're coming out with a new one. Please go to pausethinkconsider.com and subscribe to the method that you enjoy most. And I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow on Pause, Think, Consider.